The stars outside the viewport of the Aegis shimmered, like tiny jewels scattered across black velvet. Captain Elias Kane leaned forward, his eyes tracing the swirling patterns of Xyrath Prime below. From orbit, the planet looked alive, almost breathing, its thick clouds shifting in colors no human eye had names for. Sensors on the ship picked up pulses of energy that defied their calculations. The readings were strange, beautiful, and most of all, dangerous. Elias's heart raced with a mixture of fear and excitement. Humanity had crossed the galaxy to explore, to learn, and perhaps to prove that even the fragile creatures from Earth could make their mark among the stars. Beside him, his crew worked silently. Lieutenant Mara Lynn adjusted the navigational sensors, her fingers moving deftly over the controls. She was the youngest member of the mission, but the most brilliant in her field. Her mind worked like a computer, spotting patterns where others saw only chaos. Behind her, Dr. Amir Patel studied the energy readings on a holographic display, his brow furrowed. "Captain," he said, "the energy flux near the capital city is
unusual. It doesn't match anything in the database."
It's almost as if the city itself is alive.
Elias nodded slowly. "That's what I see too," he replied. He tapped his fingers against the edge of the console.
"We're going to have to get closer. We need eyes on the ground."
"Our drones can't do the job here. They keep glitching." The ship hummed as it adjusted its trajectory. The city below spread out like a forest of crystal. Towers that refracted the sunlight into thousands of colors. Alien symbols glowed on the surface, pulsing in patterns that seemed to respond to the movement of the clouds above. Elias had never seen anything like it. The city was beautiful, but it was clear that it was also dangerous. Every instinct in his body warned him to be careful.
"Landing coordinates?"
he asked. Mara glanced at the readings. "The energy fields are weakest near the western plateau. If we land there, we should be able to avoid most of the automatic patrols." Elias's lips pressed into a thin line. He had been trained to expect the unexpected, but this mission felt different. Humanity had never made contact with a species like the Cerithians before. They were rumored to be brilliant, unpredictable, and fiercely territorial. The Queen herself, Lysera, was said to have intellect unmatched in the galaxy. Meeting her would be dangerous, perhaps more than any human had survived. Yet something in Elias stirred. He had always believed humans could rise to the occasion, even when the odds seemed impossible. The Aegis descended slowly, the landing gear brushing the crystalline surface. The air outside shimmered, charged with energy that made the hair on Elias's arm stand on end. He activated his helmet comms.
"Everyone ready? Ready!"
Mara said, her voice steady. Patel let out a soft exhale, but nodded. Elias stepped out first. The ground beneath them hummed, tiny vibrations running through the soles of their boots. The alien city stretched out before them, enormous towers reaching into the sky, glowing lines of energy running between them like veins. The light shifted as if the city itself were alive, responding to their presence. Suddenly, a group of figures appeared in the distance, tall, thin, with skin that shimmered in faint blues and purples. The Xyrithian patrol moved with fluid grace. Their eyes glowed softly, and they didn't speak, only observed. Elias froze for a moment, his hand on the communicator. "Wait," he whispered. The patrol had stopped, almost as if sensing his hesitation. Then, to his shock, a larger figure stepped forward. The figure radiated authority, and the energy around her seemed to pulse differently, as if recognizing the humans. She was tall, her posture perfect, and her eyes were deep, intelligent, and frighteningly calm. Queen Lysera. Elias felt his pulse spike. The Queen studied him, her gaze sharp but not hostile. Then, for a brief, impossible moment, her eyes widened. Her hand paused in midair, as though she had seen something she never thought possible. The patrol behind her stiffened, unsure of what to do. "You are human," Lysera said finally, her voice a musical whisper that carried through the charged air. "But you are not like the others."
Elias opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. He glanced at Mara and Dr. Kendin.
Patel, who were equally stunned. The Queen's reaction was unexpected, unsettling, and yet it carried a note of curiosity rather than threat. Without another word, she turned, moving with fluid elegance toward a structure that seemed part palace, part living organism. The humans followed cautiously. The path was lined with luminous glyphs that reacted to their steps, shifting and changing colors as if reading their thoughts. Every step felt like stepping into a living dream. Inside the palace, the air was warmer, charged with subtle energy. Walls seemed to breathe, their surfaces shifting in patterns that defied geometry. Lysera motioned for them to remain still as she studied them carefully. Her eyes kept returning to Elias, focusing on something on his arm that he hadn't even noticed she could see. "You carry a mark," she said softly. "A wound that should not exist."
"You should be dead." Elias looked down at his arm.
The scar, a thin, jagged line running from his wrist to his elbow, glowed faintly beneath his skin. It was the result of a human medical experiment, an implant that had healed and integrated with his body in ways no alien or human science fully understood. It had saved his life once, and now, it seemed, it made him extraordinary in the eyes of the Queen. "I survived," he said simply. He didn't elaborate. Some truths were not safe to reveal. Not yet. Lysera's gaze lingered on the scar. "Impossible," she whispered. She turned slightly away, as though trying to hide her disbelief, then glanced back. "And yet, here you are, alive, standing before me." The patrols behind her relaxed, sensing her calm, but the tension in the room remained thick.
Elias took a careful step forward. "We come in peace," he said.
"We mean no harm to you or your people. We only wish to study, to learn, and perhaps to share knowledge."
Lysera's eyes studied him for a long moment, sharp and piercing. Then she spoke again, this time with authority.
You will follow me. Do not touch anything without permission.
"My city is delicate, and not everything within it is meant to be understood by outsiders." The humans nodded, following her through corridors that seemed alive. The walls pulsed gently, and soft lights traced patterns that were almost musical in rhythm. Every step was a discovery, every glance a new wonder. In a large chamber, Lysera stopped and gestured for them to stand in the center. Energy crystals hovered in the air, shifting slowly, glowing in response to their movements.
"These are not just decorations," she explained.
"They are part of our city's network, its lifeblood. Every crystal communicates with the others, balancing energy flows, maintaining stability. One wrong move, and the consequences could be significant." Elias stepped closer, fascinated. Even from a distance, he could see patterns within the crystals that reminded him of Earth's natural systems. Human intuition, combined with careful observation, allowed him to understand more than he expected.
"It's
beautiful," he said, "and delicate." Lysera's eyes flicked to him again, sharp and calculating. "Not all humans appreciate beauty without destruction," she said. "Yet you understand, do you not?" He nodded.
"We can learn."
"And we can adapt. That is what makes us human." The Queen studied him silently. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled, a brief, almost imperceptible movement of her lips. It was a smile that carried curiosity, respect, and a hint of challenge, all at once. "Perhaps," she said, "you are the first human who might survive not just my city, but the understanding of it." Elias's heart raced. No human had ever been this close to the Queen, to the very center of Zyrithian power. And yet, in that moment, he realized that the journey had just begun. The scar on his arm pulsed faintly, almost in rhythm with the city around him. It was more than a wound. It was a key, a marker, and perhaps a symbol of what humanity could achieve when faced with the impossible. The Queen turned away, her attention returning to the network of crystals, and the humans understood without being told. This was a test. Not of strength, not of weapons, but of mind, of perception, and of human ingenuity. And for the first time in the history of the galaxy, humanity had a chance to show what it could do in a world where everything seemed impossible. As they followed her deeper into the palace, Elias looked around with awe. The walls, the crystals, the light, all spoke of intelligence far beyond anything humans had known. And yet, somehow, the impossible scar on his arm made him feel that he belonged here, that he could rise to the challenge, and that perhaps humans were more than fragile creatures after all. And in the back of his mind, he knew one truth. Surviving Zyrith Prime and earning the respect of the Queen would require more than courage. It would require humanity to show its greatest strength, not in power or technology, but in creativity, resilience, and the courage to face the unknown. Scar and all, the palace halls stretched endlessly, each turn revealing something the humans could not have imagined. The walls shimmered with subtle patterns, like ripples across a pond, and the air vibrated softly, as if alive. Captain Elias Kane walked carefully, his eyes scanning the shapes and colors that shifted beneath the alien light. The Queen, Lysera, led the way, moving with an elegance that made the humans feel clumsy by comparison.
"You will find that Zyrith Prime is not like Earth," Lysera said, her voice calm yet commanding.
"Everything here is connected, and every action has consequences. Humans are fragile. You must understand this if you are to survive." Elias nodded, though inside a thrill of curiosity surged. Fragile, yes, but adaptable. Humans had always found ways to overcome the impossible. That adaptability was why they were here, on a planet that no one else had ever truly explored.
Doctor.
Amir Patel adjusted the sensors on his wrist device, the soft hum of its energy blending with the palace's own pulse. "The energy readings are incredible," he whispered to Mara. "It's like the entire palace is one living organism. Every crystal, every wall, it all seems to communicate."
Mara smiled slightly. "It's almost like a giant neural network," she said, her mind racing to understand.
"But on a scale I've never imagined, and it seems to respond to the Queen's presence almost like she is its brain." Lysera turned her head slightly, acknowledging them without breaking her forward stride. "You are perceptive," she said softly. "Most humans see only what they want to see. You observe what is, and perhaps that will serve you well." They arrived in a chamber that felt alive. The floor pulsed with soft light, the walls were crystalline, and hundreds of floating orbs hovered in the air, glowing faintly. Each orb moved in rhythm with the palace, and the humans realized that the orbs were not decorative. They were active, observing, calculating, and responding. "Your task begins here," Lysera said. "These orbs contain patterns that reflect our city's energy flows. You must understand them, predict their movement, and adjust your actions accordingly. A single mistake could destabilize the system."
"You may think it is simple, but nothing on this planet is as it appears."
Elias stepped closer to an orb, watching its glow shift as he extended his hand. He felt a strange resonance from the scar on his arm, the wound that had once threatened his life.
It pulsed faintly, responding in ways he could not fully explain. It was as though the city recognized him, or perhaps the wound itself carried something beyond human understanding. He moved his hand slowly, testing the orb's reactions. It shifted in response, Then another orb pulsed in sequence, as if communicating with the first. The pattern spread across the room, and Elias realized the orbs were connected, forming a network that demanded precision, patience, and intelligence to navigate. Dr. Patel and Mara joined him, their movements careful, observing the subtle changes.
It's like a game, Mara said quietly.
But the rules aren't written anywhere. We have to discover them as we go. Lysera watched, her eyes narrowing thoughtfully. Most humans would panic, she said. Yet you adapt. You learn. That is what makes your kind remarkable. Hours passed as the humans studied the orbs, their patterns, and the energy flows. The Queen offered occasional guidance, pointing out subtle connections or revealing small truths about the city's network. Elias discovered that his wound resonated not only with the orbs, but with the city itself. When he moved with intention, energy flowed in harmony. When he hesitated, the pulses faltered. By midday, they had established a basic understanding. The orbs responded to their movements, forming intricate patterns that stabilized parts of the city's energy. Yet, Lysera's expression remained unreadable.
You have potential, she said finally. But potential alone is not enough.
You must show understanding, creativity, and respect for what you do not control. Only then will you succeed.
Elias nodded, absorbing her words. Humans were known for strength, courage, and invention. But here, none of that mattered without intuition and careful observation. He realized that every movement he made affected not only the orbs but the palace itself. One wrong choice could ripple outward, disrupting energy flows across the city. Dr. Patel glanced at Elias, his voice low. This is beyond anything Earth has ever produced. Your wound. It seems to act like a bridge connecting your understanding to the city's systems. I've never seen anything like it.
Elias flexed his arm, watching the faint glow beneath his skin. It had saved his life once, and now it seemed to give him insight that no human or alien could replicate. It's more than a wound, he said softly. It's a key. Lysera's eyes flicked to him, sharp and intense. A key, indeed, and perhaps the first human who might truly understand what Zyrith Prime is. But understanding alone is not enough. You must act with care. The humans continued their work, moving carefully among the orbs. Slowly, patterns emerged. Sequences repeated. Energy flows balanced, and the city seemed to respond positively to their actions. For the first time, they sensed a rhythm. A pulse that made the impossible seem achievable. Lysera observed silently, occasionally nodding or offering a subtle correction. You are learning, she said.
Yet there is still more. The orbs are only the beginning.
You must understand the larger network, the flow of life within the city. Only then will you grasp the true challenge. Elias felt a thrill of anticipation. Humans had always been explorers, problem solvers, and innovators. Here, on Zyrith Prime, their skills were being tested in ways no one could have imagined. And yet, for the first time, he felt that humanity might rise to meet the impossible. As the sun, or what the humans assumed was the sun, shifted across the alien sky, the chamber changed. Orbs moved faster, pulses quickened, and subtle shifts in color created patterns that were almost musical. The humans realized that the city itself was alive in a way they could barely comprehend. Their task was not merely observation, it was communication, collaboration, and trust in their instincts. Elias took a deep breath, centering himself. We can do this, he said quietly. Mara nodded, and Dr. Patel adjusted his instruments. They moved together, careful, deliberate, responding to each pulse, each subtle change in light and energy. Lysera's expression softened slightly.
You are different from other humans, she murmured,
Most would have faltered by now.
Yet you adapt. You learn. You. Perhaps that is why you bear the impossible wound. Perhaps you are meant for more than your species has ever known. The humans worked through the day, learning, adjusting, and harmonizing with the orbs. By evening, patterns had stabilized in parts of the city, and the energy flows balanced in ways that had baffled the Zyrithians for centuries. Lysera finally allowed herself a small smile. You may yet prove that humans are more than fragile creatures. You may yet show that your kind can adapt to the impossible. Elias felt a sense of pride, but tempered it with caution. They were still far from understanding the full complexity of Zyrith Prime. The city was alive, intelligent, and unpredictable. Their journey had only begun, and the challenges ahead would require every ounce of creativity, observation, and courage they possessed. As they prepared to leave the chamber, Lysera spoke again.
Rest for now. Tomorrow, the true challenge begins.
You will not only interact with the city, but with its inhabitants, and not all of them will welcome outsiders so readily. Elias nodded. He felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Humanity had come to explore, but now survival depended not on weapons or strength, but on understanding, respect, and ingenuity. That night, as the humans rested in chambers that pulsed softly with alien light, Elias examined his wound. The faint glow beneath his skin seemed stronger, almost as if it was reacting to the city itself. It was a reminder that he was different, that humanity was different, and that their greatest strength lay not in dominance but in resilience, adaptability, and intelligence. Dr. Patel studied the energy readings quietly, murmuring to himself about the complexity of the city's network. Mara traced the patterns with her fingers, fascinated by the rhythm and harmony, and Elias, staring out at the glowing towers beyond the palace windows, understood one truth. The path ahead would not be easy, but it was a path humans were capable of navigating if they relied on what made them unique. The scar on his arm pulsed faintly, a steady rhythm that matched the city's energy. Elias felt it as a connection, a guide, and perhaps a key to what was yet to come. Humanity had survived first contact, not through power, but through insight and adaptation. And if they continued to use their minds, their creativity, and their courage, they might not only survive, but thrive. The first test had been passed, but the greater challenge awaited. Tomorrow, they would face puzzles and trials that would test their understanding of life itself on Zyrith Prime. Yet Elias felt a quiet confidence. Humans were fragile, yes, but they were also curious, resilient, and capable of rising to meet the impossible. And as he drifted into sleep, he knew one thing with certainty. The wound that had once threatened his life was now a symbol of what humanity could achieve, a living reminder that even the weakest species could hold the key to understanding, and perhaps even mastering, the impossible. Morning came on, Zyrith Prime not as humans would recognize it, but as a slow, shimmering change in the colors of the sky. The city's towers reflected and absorbed the light in ways that made the entire world feel alive, breathing, and aware. Captain Elias Kane awoke first, his eyes drawn instinctively to the faint glow beneath his skin. His scar, the wound that had once nearly cost him his life, pulsed in harmony with the city itself. It had become more than a mark, it was a connection, a link between his humanity and the alien intelligence surrounding him. He dressed quietly, careful not to disturb Mara or Dr. Patel, who slept in chambers that themselves seemed alive, the walls shifting in soft patterns of color. Elias stepped toward the window and gazed out at the crystalline city below. Already the towers shimmered with movement, the floating orbs beginning their early morning routines. The city was active, and it watched him. He knew that every step he had taken so far had been observed, every action analyzed. A soft knock at the door interrupted his thoughts. Lysera entered without waiting for an invitation, as was custom in the palace. She moved with her usual elegance, every motion precise, every glance deliberate.
"You are awake," she said, her voice calm yet commanding.
Today will test you more than yesterday. The city itself will judge not only your intelligence, but your ability to understand life in a way no human has yet grasped. Elias straightened, feeling a mixture of anticipation and anxiety. "We are ready," he said, though he did not know exactly what awaited them. Lysera led them into a new chamber. Unlike the previous one, this room was larger, with no floor visible, only a lattice of floating platforms that moved slowly and silently through the air. Each platform contained a network of crystals, each emitting pulses of light and energy. At first glance, the system seemed chaotic, almost random, yet Elias sensed a subtle order beneath the surface.
"The city is alive," Lysera said softly, almost to herself.
It is not merely energy or matter. It is thought, memory, and balance. "And it will challenge you." Elias stepped onto one of the floating platforms, testing its stability. It shifted slightly, reacting to his weight, and he realized that every platform was connected to the next, a delicate web that demanded precision and foresight. One wrong move could throw the sequence into disarray. Dr. Patel followed carefully, recording every movement, every energy shift. Mara, ever perceptive, studied the patterns, her mind racing to predict the platform's behavior. Together, the three humans moved forward, each step deliberate, each calculation instinctive. "You must understand that these platforms are not just obstacles," Lysera explained. "They are part of the city's mind. Each crystal responds to thought, intent, and emotion. The balance you create here will affect the entire network. Proceed carefully." Elias nodded. The scar on his arm pulsed more strongly, a guiding rhythm he had come to trust. With each movement, he felt the city respond. Patterns of light shifted, energy flows stabilized, and the platforms aligned in ways that allowed safe passage. Yet the challenge was not over. Midway across the chamber, a platform shifted unexpectedly, moving faster than anticipated. Mara caught her balance just in time, but Dr. Patel froze, unsure of how to proceed. Elias reacted instinctively, reaching out and touching the crystal network with his glowing scar. To his amazement, the platform slowed, responding to his presence. The city itself seemed to acknowledge him, granting him a moment of stability. Lysera watched with sharp interest. "Indeed," she murmured.
"You are more than a human."
"Your connection. It allows you to bridge the gap between fragility and understanding. Yet you must remember, understanding alone is not enough. You must also lead, guide, and act with clarity." As they continued, the challenges grew more complex. Platforms moved unpredictably. Crystal networks pulsed with patterns Elias had never seen before, and the energy of the city surged around them. The humans adapted, learning to trust their instincts and one another. Mara predicted platform shifts. Dr. Patel monitored the energy flows, and Elias led with a combination of intuition and the guidance of his wound. Hours passed. The chamber shifted constantly, forcing them to adjust, reconsider, and innovate. The floating orbs now joined the trial, moving alongside the platforms, emitting pulses that required careful timing and observation. One misstep could send a sequence into chaos, yet the humans persisted, drawing strength from their curiosity, resilience, and ability to think creatively. At one point, a platform descended into a swirling void of energy. Elias hesitated, recognizing the danger. The void pulsed with patterns that seemed alive, reacting to their presence. Without hesitation, he extended his scarred arm toward the energy. It glowed brightly, resonating with the void, and for a moment, time seemed to slow. The energy pulsed in harmony with him, allowing safe passage. Lysera's eyes widened slightly, the first visible expression of surprise she had shown since their arrival.
"You are...
"Remarkable," she said softly. No human has ever interacted with this part of the city before. You are changing its behavior merely by existing within it. Elias felt a surge of pride, tempered by caution. The city was alive, intelligent, and unpredictable. Respect, patience, and observation were as important as courage or skill. He realized that every action they took could have far-reaching consequences, not only for themselves, but for the city as a whole. As they approached the far end of the chamber, a new challenge emerged. A wall of shifting light appeared, crystalline and radiant, patterns moving too quickly for the human eye to follow. The pulse of the city surged in response, creating a symphony of energy that was both beautiful and terrifying. "You must understand this," Lysera said, her voice calm. "The wall represents knowledge, memory, and decision. To pass, you must think, observe, and act as one with the city."
Hesitation will fail you? Elias took a deep breath.
He studied the patterns, tracing them in his mind, feeling the rhythm of his scar respond to the energy. Mara and Dr. Patel mirrored his movements, adjusting their own actions based on his lead. Together, they moved in precise synchronization, each step guided by intuition, observation, and trust in one another. The wall responded. The shifting patterns slowed, aligning with their movements, and a pathway opened. The humans crossed carefully, feeling the pulse of the city around them. The air seemed to hum with approval, as if acknowledging their success. Lysera watched silently, her expression unreadable. "You are progressing faster than I expected," she said finally. "Yet the true test has only just begun. The city is more than platforms and energy. It is life itself, and life will always challenge you in ways you do not anticipate."
Elias felt a mixture of pride and apprehension. They had succeeded in navigating the chamber, yet he knew the city had more in store.
Its intelligence was vast, its challenges subtle and complex. Humans had survived thus far not through strength, but through creativity, adaptability, and the courage to act despite uncertainty. As they rested briefly, Mara whispered, "I never imagined anything like this."
"The city? It's alive!"
"And it reacts to him," she said, nodding toward Elias. "That scar, it's like a bridge. Somehow, it connects him to the city itself."
Dr.
Patel nodded in agreement. "It's as if the wound is more than an injury. It carries information, resonance, a key we don't fully understand." Elias flexed his arm, feeling the faint glow beneath his skin. He had come to accept that the scar was a part of him, but now he realized it was more than that. It was a tool, a guide, and perhaps the reason the Queen had reacted so strongly upon their arrival. Lysera returned their attention to the chamber.
"Rest if you must," she said. "But remember, the city does not sleep."
It watches, tests, and learns. Tomorrow, the challenges will become more subtle, more complex, and more human. You must be ready to adapt in ways you cannot yet imagine. Elias nodded, understanding the weight of her words. Humanity had come to Zirith Prime seeking knowledge, but they were now part of a larger system, one that demanded intellect, creativity, and intuition beyond what they had ever needed before. That night, as the humans rested, the city itself seemed to pulse with energy. Light shifted across the walls and ceilings, subtle patterns tracing unseen paths. The scar on Elias's arm glowed faintly, in rhythm with the pulse, as if the city acknowledged his presence, his understanding, and his growing connection to it. He reflected on what had occurred. Humans were fragile, yet capable of adaptation. They had faced an impossible environment, learned its rules, and begun to harmonize with it. The Queen had challenged them not with weapons, but with intellect, patience, and perception. And the wound that had once marked him as weak had now become a symbol of human resilience, creativity, and adaptability. Elias knew that the trials ahead would not be simple. The city would demand more than observation. It would demand collaboration, ingenuity, and the courage to act without certainty. Yet he felt a quiet confidence. Humans were fragile, yes, but they were also capable of rising to meet the impossible, to adapt, and to thrive where others might fail. And as sleep overtook him, he felt a deep sense of connection to the city, to his crew, and to the potential of humanity itself. The scar on his arm pulsed in rhythm with the city, a reminder of both human fragility and incredible capability. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but Elias Kane knew one truth with certainty. Humanity had survived first contact, not through force or technology alone, but through courage, insight, and the willingness to adapt. The pulse of the city grew stronger in the night, resonating through walls, floors, and the air itself. It was alive, aware, and learning. And Elias understood that this was only the beginning. Humanity's journey on Xyrath Prime would test them in ways no one could predict, yet it was a journey they were capable of mastering. Because human ingenuity, resilience, and curiosity were powers even the most advanced alien civilization could not ignore. Morning on Xyrath Prime broke slowly, as if the planet itself was taking its time to awaken. The towers glowed softly in 1,000 colors. The energy networks pulsed gently, and the floating orbs drifted in patterns that seemed almost like breathing. Captain Elias Kane rose first, feeling the familiar pulse beneath his skin. The scar on his arm glowed faintly, in rhythm with the city, reminding him of the connection he had formed over the last 2 days. It was no longer just a mark. It was a key, a bridge, and a guide. He dressed quickly, careful not to wake Mara or Dr. Patel, who were still recovering from the exhaustive trials of the previous day. They had crossed the floating platforms, harmonized with the crystal networks, and navigated the challenges of the city with skill and ingenuity. Yet Elias knew that today's test would be the ultimate one. Lysira had not yet revealed the full extent of the city's challenge, and he sensed that the Queen had been observing them with a purpose far beyond simple assessment. A soft light filled the chamber as Lysira appeared, her presence commanding, yet serene. "Today," she said, her voice calm and precise, "you will face the true heart of Xyrath Prime. Everything you have learned, everything you have accomplished, will be tested. The city will not merely observe you, it will interact with your minds, your intentions, and your ability to create harmony." Elias felt a shiver of anticipation. Humans had survived impossible situations before, but this was unlike anything on Earth. Here, the environment was alive, intelligent, and responsive. Success would require insight, collaboration, and trust in instincts. The scar on his arm pulsed brighter, almost as if acknowledging the importance of the moment. Lysira led them to a vast chamber, larger than any they had seen. The floor was composed of thousands of floating hexagonal platforms, each glowing with energy. Crystal networks stretched from one platform to another, forming a web of light and motion. At the center of the room, a massive spear hovered, radiating energy that flowed outward in waves, pulsing in complex rhythms.
This sphere, Lysira explained, is the heart of the city. It contains memory, knowledge, and energy that have accumulated for millennia.
It responds not to force, but to understanding. You must harmonize with it, guide its flow, and create balance. The city will measure your capability, not by strength, but by insight. Elias stepped forward, his scar glowing faintly in response to the sphere's energy. He extended his hand toward the crystal networks, feeling a subtle resonance. The energy of the city was alive, aware, and it seemed to recognize him as more than human. Mara and Dr. Patel joined him carefully, moving in synchronization with his movements. The platforms began to shift beneath their feet, requiring precise timing and coordination. Pulses of light from the spear spread across the chamber, forming patterns that demanded attention and response. Elias realized that every decision, every movement, influenced the flow of energy. The city was testing them, not just physically, but intellectually and emotionally. Hours passed as they worked, adjusting movements, harmonizing with the energy patterns, and predicting the flows of the platforms. Elias noticed that his scar pulsed in increasing brightness, as though responding to the city's approval. Mara began to anticipate platform movements instinctively, while Dr. Patel monitored subtle energy shifts, guiding their actions. Lysera observed quietly, her eyes never leaving Elias.
You have learned quickly, she said softly. Yet understanding the patterns alone is insufficient.
You must grasp the essence of the city, the life within it, and act as one with it. Elias nodded, focusing on the flow of energy and the rhythm of his scar. He realized that the scar acted as a bridge, translating human intuition into alignment with the city's pulse. Every movement, every decision, now felt effortless, guided by a harmony that connected them to Zyrith Prime itself. As they reached the center of the chamber, the sphere responded, sending waves of energy outward. The platforms shifted rapidly, forming a complex lattice that demanded coordination, timing, and insight. Elias guided his team through, using subtle gestures and intuition, harmonizing with the patterns, and trusting the resonance from his scar. Suddenly, a section of the platforms shifted too quickly, creating a dangerous gap. Dr. Patel froze, but Elias reacted instinctively. He touched the crystal network with his glowing scar, and to his amazement, the platform stabilized. The city itself seemed to recognize his presence, granting them safe passage. Mara adjusted their timing, moving in perfect synchronization, and together they crossed the final section. Lysera's expression changed. For the first time, a hint of astonishment appeared on her face. Remarkable, she whispered. No human has ever interacted with the heart of the city in this way. You have created balance, not through force, but through understanding, insight, and adaptation. The sphere pulsed with bright light radiating approval, and the chamber's energy stabilized completely. Elias felt the resonance in his scar, a gentle warmth that spoke of connection, achievement, and recognition. Humanity had not conquered the city. They had harmonized with it. Lysera approached him, her eyes locking onto the scar. You are extraordinary, she said softly, her voice carrying awe and respect. This mark, this wound, it has made you something more than human. You have bridged the gap between fragility and understanding. You have shown what your species can achieve when intelligence, creativity, and courage are combined. Elias looked at her, humbled but proud. I did not do this alone, he said. My team, our instincts, and our willingness to adapt, that is what made it possible. Humans are fragile, yes, but we are also resilient, inventive, and capable of rising to the impossible. Lysera's gaze softened, a rare display of emotion. I see that now, she said. Perhaps humanity has been underestimated. Perhaps your kind is capable of more than even the galaxy has imagined. The chamber's energy shifted again, forming a network of patterns that glowed like constellations. Elias stepped forward, guided by the resonance of his scar, Mara's insight, and Dr. Patel's calculations. Together, they adjusted the energy flows, harmonizing with the city's heart. Light spread across the chamber, and the sphere's pulses became steady, calm, and balanced. You have succeeded, Lysera said, her voice filled with quiet triumph. Not by conquering, but by understanding. Not by dominating, but by harmonizing. Humanity has shown what it can do when faced with the impossible. Elias felt a surge of relief and pride. They had passed the final test, not through force or power, but through observation, creativity, and adaptation. The scar on his arm pulsed brightly, a living reminder of resilience, intelligence, and connection. The Queen extended her hand, a gesture of respect rarely offered to outsiders. You have proven that your kind can achieve what others could not. Perhaps humanity has a place here, not as invaders, but as allies, as collaborators, as equals. Elias took her hand, understanding the significance. Humanity had survived not through violence or dominance, but through qualities that aliens often overlooked: courage, ingenuity, and the ability to adapt to impossible circumstances. Mara and Dr. Patel joined them, and Lysera regarded the three humans with newfound respect.
You are not merely visitors, she said. You are participants in the life of this world.
Your actions have shown that intelligence and understanding are not bound by species. Perhaps this is the first step toward a future where humans and Xyrithians can work together, learn from one another, and create something greater than either could alone. Elias looked around the chamber, feeling the pulse of the city beneath his feet, the warmth of his scar, and the resonance of achievement. Humanity had come to Xyroth Prime to explore, but they had left an imprint far greater than mere observation. They had harmonized with life itself, proving that even a fragile species could rise to the impossible. Lysera's gaze returned to Elias, her expression a mixture of awe and curiosity. You are not real, she whispered, almost to herself. And yet, here you are. Perhaps humanity is more than I believed. Perhaps your kind deserves to exist in ways we never imagined. Elias smiled quietly. Maybe humans are exactly what the galaxy needs, he said softly. Not perfect, not invincible, but capable of growth, understanding, and harmony. That is our strength. The Queen nodded, her eyes lingering on the scar that had guided them through the trials. It is more than a mark, she said. It is a symbol of what your kind can achieve when intelligence, courage, and creativity are combined. You have shown that even the smallest, most fragile species can rise to meet the impossible. The humans stood together, feeling the pulse of Xyroth Prime around them. The city had tested them, challenged them, and now accepted them. They had proven the value of human ingenuity, resilience, and the willingness to face the unknown with courage and clarity. As they left the chamber, the city seemed to shimmer with approval, patterns of light shifting in celebration of their success. The scar on Elias's arm glowed faintly, a reminder of both human fragility and incredible capability. Humanity had survived first contact, not through force, but through understanding, creativity, and harmony. Lysera walked beside them, her presence calm but filled with respect. You have changed my understanding of your species, she said. Perhaps this is the beginning of a new era, one where humans are seen not as weak, but as capable of great insight, courage, and contribution. You have shown what it truly means to be human. Elias felt a quiet pride, tempered by humility. They had faced impossible odds, navigated a living city, and emerged not as conquerors, but as collaborators. Humanity had been tested, and they had risen to the occasion. The sun, or its Cerithian equivalent, rose higher, casting shifting colors across the crystalline towers. Light pulsed in harmony with the human steps. And for the first time, Elias felt that they were not merely visitors on Xyroth Prime, but participants in a living, intelligent world. The Queen looked at Elias once more. You are not real, yet your existence has changed everything. Perhaps this is the proof that humanity's greatest strength is not in might or numbers, but in intelligence, creativity, and the courage to face the impossible. You have proven that your kind deserves a place among the stars. Elias smiled, feeling the weight of their achievement. Humanity had not only survived, but had shown that their qualities, resilience, ingenuity, and collaboration, were powerful enough to harmonize with a world beyond imagination. And as the city pulsed around them, vibrant and alive, Elias Kane knew that humanity had carved its place in the galaxy, not through domination, but through understanding, insight, and the courage to rise to challenges no one had ever thought possible. The scar on his arm glowed steadily, a living symbol of what humans could achieve. Humanity had proven itself not just as survivors, but as creators, harmonizers, and beings capable of rising to meet the impossible. And the Queen, Lysera, could no longer deny it. Humans were extraordinary. For the first time, Xyrath Prime, and perhaps the galaxy itself, recognized the power of humanity.